Hey guys, and welcome to another Schematics interview. This time we want to talk about Kubifaktorium, and for that we invited Mirko. Hey.
Hello, thank you.
So first of all, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure, my name is Mirko. I live in Bonn, Germany. I have an academic background. I have studied computer science and economics, and have a research job at Research Institute. And I've also been indie game developer since about 5 years ago, when I made a game called Boss Constructor, which was in early access for 2 years and has been finished in 2015. And currently I'm working on Kubifaktorium, which is my next big game.
So I'm just curious, just games that you like to play. What games have you been playing recently outside of, the game of making games?
Basically, there are two huge categories of games I like to play. First of all, it is these colony building and management games. So I've played a lot of Factorial and Gnomoria lately. I've also tried to buy and install the older Settlers games with a bit of mixed success. Yeah, the second category I like to play is Soulspawn games like Bloodborne or Neo, which I enjoy a lot.
How long have you been working on Kubifaktorium?
So I do have a main job where I work on the day mainly. I've been working on Kubifaktorium for about 1 to 2 years. So given that I'm only working on it in the evening or on weekends, I think it's about like 500 to 1000 hours I have put in it. And of course the last weeks I've been quite busy, so lately it's been a lot more.
What is Kubifaktorium about, and what are the key features of the game?
I guess in a nutshell you can say it is a mix of the Settlers, Gnomoria and Factorial. And it plays out that in the early game you have like this colony building and management part, which is a bit like in the early Settlers games. So you build a colony, build farms and do some basic mining and production. And then in the mid to late game you get to found new outposts and colonies, trade between them, make transport systems and keep them managed, and later on automate a lot of things to make colony more effective. So there will be like depots, trains, conveyor belts and so on in the game, which will set it apart from other colony games.
So what was the inspiration for the game?
I have really played these games a ton, like the earlier Settler games when I was a kid, and games like Anno, and always enjoyed this colony building and management part a lot. And also lately I still like Factorial and so on, other games where I spend most of my time on. Yeah, I've always wanted to make something in that genre, but bring my own ideas to the table.
Kubifaktorium has a very specific look. You're going for the kind of almost cel-shaded voxel look. What inspired the game's art style?
Actually, I need to shout out a friend here who helped me develop it. So in the beginning, I've been stumbling around and making some really crappy voxel art. So I was always almost at the point of despair. And then he made like a demo scene and it looked really nice. Unfortunately, he isn't working on the game anymore. He really helped me define this specific voxel look. And apart from that, I think the reasoning behind doing this style is, for one, that I personally like the aesthetic of it, simple and clean art style, and also it is very easy to create new content in this art style. So currently there is a modding competition going on, and people are already creating some cool things based on that.
So I wonder, are there things that you learned from creating Boss Constructor that you have taken into account for Kubifaktorium?
Of course, I think many things did not work out so well in Boss Constructor, and some things did work out pretty well. So first of all, one thing I learned is that it is really important to finish a project rather quickly. In Boss Constructor it was like 8 years between the first prototype and when I finally finished it. And when you have a project drag on for so long, it's like really easy to become fatigued with it and lose a bit of inspiration along the way. Another thing is that I sort of underestimated how people react to complex simulation games in a way. For people who don't know, Boss Constructor is a game where you build your own spaceship. You can do so very creatively, so you can have... It is easy to create something really cool, but it is also easy to create something which doesn't work at all. For example, some of the negative reviews on Steam, it is from people who expected a different type of game. Yeah, I think I should have done a better job at sort of communicating that it is like a harder simulation game. I think it was a very good experience to finish the game. I think one mistake many aspiring developers make is that they, do all these game jam projects, which is of course great and a huge fun to get started. From having such a cool prototype to a finished project, it's a very long way.
So let's talk about Kubi again a little bit more. Where's the depth for Kubifaktorium going to come from, and how deep is the base building and mood management simulation and automation going to be like? What is your goal for depth?
You can basically pull these three parts, three aspects apart. So as the base building is concerned, I want it to be about as complex as in GNOME or the settlers. So complex regarding the products and the production tree and so on. So that is about the number of buildings and products I have in mind. There will be some basic mood management. So for example, if you create high quality food, for example, it will positively affect your people's productivity, but that part will not be as complex. When it comes to the automation, there will be automated workshops and different types of transportation systems. So I would say regarding the complexity, it is probably going to be around what you have in Factorial. However, it is not going to have the scale. So if you look up like Factorial speedrun or so on YouTube and people have these huge factories, this is probably not a scale you will get in.
Kubifaktorium will, in the final release, have a campaign as well. So I wonder, how will be the game structure in the campaign?
So in the campaign, you will basically have a world map where you travel between islands and build colonies on each of these islands. And each island will be different when it comes to resources you will find. So there will be different biomes, and each biome will have different enemies, different resources, and so on. And apart from building your colonies on each island, there is this sort of macro consideration of how you plan the trade between the different islands. Basically, when you start off a new island, you will pretty much start from scratch. However, you will have the settlers you have from the previous island and who have gained some skills. So it will be faster to get started. And also the older islands will supply you with resources. For example, if you are on a desert island, it is important that you get food from your older island and so on.
You keep talking about GNOME and referencing games like RimWorld. So where does the difficulty come from? Is losing going to be fun? And are we going to watch our bases burn?
Yeah, this is actually a really hard question, and I've actually talked to other developers about it. The question really is, does a game need like a failure state? Like, I think from a formal definition, it has to be. For this type of building and construction game, I'm not entirely sure how to really implement it. So if you look at Factorial, for example, there are these biters who occasionally come and ruin your base, but I don't really think that this makes the game fun, right? Because it's just like, it's just annoying in the end. It's trivial in a way to defeat them, but they destroy what you have built previously, and you just have to rebuild what you have just built. This isn't entirely decided on yet. There will be such a failure state. I mean, there will be some basic combat and some enemies to defeat, but this will be more productive in a way that it helps you expand your territory and get more resources and so on.
So in the end, the failure state is more like misplanning.
I guess so, yeah. The challenge is more like I see it in Factorial, where it's not so much about making it or not making it, but finding like an efficient and nice looking way to do it.
What needs to be done before the game goes into alpha, and what are your plans? What will be there in September? Because you said like the alpha will be starting in September this year.
So there's currently a Kickstarter campaign running for the game. When that campaign completes, the demo, which is now public and which I'm working on a lot, will become private, and only the people who have supported the projects will continue being able to play it. And there are some milestones I want to reach until that is the case. So the first is that there is a working deployment process for Windows, Mac, and Linux. When it comes to features, one thing I really want to fix is loading and saving a game. So it works in theory, but like whenever you change something in the game, loading and saving is usually the first thing that breaks. And yeah, currently it is broken.
In the Kickstarter, you talk about early access. How do you plan to stand out on the Steam store? Because it's kind of a mess right now.
Yeah, that's actually a huge topic if you look on the indie developer groups on Facebook and so on. Like, is the indie apocalypse here, and are there like 5,000 new games on Steam every day and so on? I'm not entirely sure how to think about that, right? Because like every time when somebody posts like, I've made this game and nobody bought it, it's usually like a really, cookie cutter, simple game. I have done a lot of market research, obviously. So by market research, I mean, I've looked at a ton of different games who are on Steam, and try to figure out the pattern behind what games are successful and which games are not successful. I think that this genre which Kubifaktorium is in, which is this complex building production management genre, is actually quite undersaturated. I think there are a number of reasons for this, but what I found is that many games in this genre tend to do very well when it comes to sales. And yeah, that is what I'm hoping for. And obviously I'm also doing marketing and community building in addition to that. So I'm not purely relying on, people stumbling upon it.
I'm curious, actually. I'm going to insert another question into here. Why do you think this genre is underpopulated?
Because it's very hard to make such games. So first of all, I think when you compare it to mobile type games, it's very relatively hard. And by hard, I mean it's a lot of work you need to put into it. There are many systems which interact with each other and many sources of bugs which can occur. So I think you need to be relatively skilled to do it. And I think the second reason is that many people, when making games, try to make a game which is like another game that is currently popular. So a few years ago, when there was Braid and Fez, everybody tried to make puzzle platform games, for example. Currently, Battle Royale is very popular, so there are very many like bad Battle Royale clones. I think these are two of the main reasons for this.
So, will there be mod support? That's obviously a fan favorite. And if there will be mod support, how will it work? For example, Steam Workshop.
Yes, there will be mod support. And actually, the demo version is already moddable. And I'm currently running a modding competition until Sunday this week. If you are interested, you can just download the demo from itch.io and participate. The way I recommend going about it is to just take an existing object, open the voxel model in a voxel editor like Magica Voxel, which you can download for free, and just play around with it. So if you have created something cool, you can post it in our Discord channel. And there are actually already some really sweet things there. So for example, someone made a barn where animals can rest and so on. When it comes to distribution, it will probably be via Steam Workshop in the end, because I'm presuming that the Steam version will be most popular in the end. Maybe there will also be an alternative way of downloading mods. I'm not really sure about that.
Awesome. Well, we're kind of at the end of our list of questions here. So this is your opportunity to tell people where to find and support and fund Kubifaktorium, and shout out yourself and tell people where they can find your work.
Okay, thank you. So the Kickstarter campaign for Kubifaktorium is running well. So we are at about 7.5k and have about over 20 days left. So there are some nice rewards you can get there, apart from the participation in the closed alpha later on. Then there is the demo version on itch.io, which I can highly recommend to check out. I'm working heavily on creating new updates and expanding the demo. So I'm constantly adding features to the demo, so it's getting bigger and bigger. And finally, if you want to join the community, I would recommend having a look at our Discord channel. And yeah, you can find a link, I guess, in the description.
So first of all, thanks a lot, Mirko, for joining us and talking about Kubifaktorium.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
For you guys out there, thanks a lot for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you really enjoyed this video, you may want to consider going the extra mile and heading over to Ko-fi to buy the editor, in this case BlindIRL, so he can edit this video after streaming for way too long, in my opinion, but that's another case. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching again. See you next time. Bye.
Bye. I know I have a problem, okay, man?